This video shows you how to start a new translation project in TranslationStudio for Android. When you start this video, you should already have opened TranslationStudio and be logged in. See the video on setting up TranslationStudio. When you first log into TranslationStudio, the home screen displays a welcome message. To start a new translation project, you can tap either the blue plus icon or the green Start a New Translation button. A translation project consists of three elements: a target language, a project category that specifies what you are translating, and one or more source texts. In this first screen for starting a new translation, you specify the target language, the language you are translating into. The languages are arranged alphabetically by the language code that is shown on the right column of the list. You can swipe up the screen to find your language, or you can search for it. To search, tap the magnifying glass at the top right of the screen. In this example, we will search for the Swahili language. Type the language code SW into the search box. The language list is reduced to those whose language code begins with SW. Swipe the screen up a bit. Tap Kiswahili to select it. The next screen enables you to specify the project category, what you will be translating. If you select one of the Bible categories, you also will select the book of the Bible that you will translate. In this example, we are going to translate the book of Romans. Tap Bible NT. Swipe the screen up, and then tap Romans. The new project opens. You can see the name of the project, but before you can begin translating, you must select a source text. Tap either of the plus-minus icons to specify a source text. You can use more than one source text. For this example, we will specify two source texts. Tap the checkbox next to English (EN) Unlocked Literal Bible. The ULB moves to the Selected section of the list. Now tap the checkbox next to English (EN) Unlocked Dynamic Bible. Then tap Confirm. The project opens to the project screen. Note that there are three icons at the top left. The top one that is selected looks like 3.5 horizontal lines. This is the chapter view or reading view of the project. In this view you can read, or in MAST terminology, consume the entire chapter at once to get an overall understanding of the meaning of what you will be translating. This is the first step of MAST. Then, before starting translation, you should, in the target language, tell another person what you have read. This is the verbalized step of MAST. Note the two tabs above the book name and the chapter name. These are the two source texts that you selected. The English ULB is open. Tap English UDB to show the same chapter in that version. The English UDB opens. This is a more meaning-based rather than a literal translation. It is sometimes helpful to look at both versions as you translate. Tap the piece of paper behind the chapter. You perform translation in the chunk view of the project screen. You can access the chunk view by tapping the chunk view icon, which is the middle in the group of three icons at the top left of the screen. Before translation begins, there is also a Begin Translating button that you can use to access the chunk view. Tap the Begin Translating button. The third MAST step, chunking, has been done for you. So the chunk view displays the text in sections or chunks. After you read a chunk and think you can rewrite it without looking, you can begin translating by tapping the piece of paper behind the text. Now the chunk you are translating appears like a note card into which you can enter the translation. You are not able to see the source text while you are translating. This enforces blind drafting, which is the fourth step of MAST. After you have entered the translation, tap the piece of paper behind the translation to return to the source text of the chunk. Swipe up to show the next chunk. After you have translated all the chunks in the chapter, tap the bottom icon in the group of 3 icons at the top left of the screen. This takes you to the check view of the project. This view enables you to do the 5th step of MAST, self-checking. In this view, you can see both the source text and the translation side by side. Compare these and add in anything that you may have left out. You can also correct any typographical or grammatical errors. In the check view, you also have translation resources available to you. These are attached to the English ULB source text, so tap the English ULB tab in the source text pane. Now swipe the screen to the left to see the available resources. A third pane opens in the check view. This pane contains different resources to aid your translation. The first tab contains notes with supplemental material, including translation suggestions. Tap one of the notes to open it. The note shows additional information for the passage. Notes may also contain links to other notes. Tap Close to close the note. Tap the Words tab in the Resources pane. The Words tab lists the key words and important terms of the passage. Tap one of these entries. The selected word opens, enabling you to see a definition or description. You can swipe the pane up if the definition is longer than the space shown. There may be links to related terms. Tap Close to return to the Words pane. Tap the Questions tab. The Questions tab contains questions designed to ensure that the translation is clear. A person should be able to correctly answer each question by reading the translated text. Tap one of the questions. If the person's answer is not the same as the answer given, you should review your translation to make sure that it is clear. Tap Close to return to the Resources pane. To get more room to edit the chunk, you can swipe to the right to dismiss the Resources pane. To edit the translation, tap the pencil icon for that chunk. Make the corrections, and then tap the check icon to save the text. After you have checked the chunk, you can place the verse markers. Tap and hold the verse marker and drag it to the correct position, slightly above the first word of the verse. When you are satisfied with the translation, you can mark the chunk as done by sliding the toggle at the bottom right of the chunk to the right. A message asks if you are sure the chunk is done. Tap Confirm. If you ever need to edit that chunk again, you can slide the toggle back to the left. Return to the home screen now by tapping the 3-dot icon to invoke the Options menu. And then tap Home. The home screen now shows your project. If you want to open it again, just tap it. This video showed you how to start a translation project in TranslationStudio for Android. You also learned how to edit your translation and use the translation resources, notes, words, and questions. Next, you can learn to upload your project to Door 43.